Hello! A bit late, but I'm doing a video about the Vesak festival, which is Buddha's birthday. It was on the 5th of May, actually, the full moon in Taurus. We had the eclipse as well, didn't we? So I've been through what a time of it, as you can imagine, as we all have, with all this shifting and changing and this and that. So I'm just feeling, I've got a lot of energy tonight. I've had a really difficult day of challenges and I'm suddenly got fed up with it all. I'm thinking I'm going to do a video, probably the last one, because I'm not very happy with them. So I'm just doing this one about an adventure I had a good 20 years ago now, Susie. I'm a very old lady. Talking of old ladies, there's an old lady I've seen on the video. She's over 80, so, and she's looks absolutely marvellous, so I think there's hope for me yet. Anyway, this is a video about my adventure to get from the UK to Mount Shasta in California on my own. It was a festival called the Vesak Festival, and it was at the University with Dr. Joshua Stone, my favourite man, who's now deceased. It was a big event, a two-week event, and we stayed in log cabins by the Mount Shasta, which is a sacred mountain. If I get a bit wobbly, it's because I was a long time ago and I got to try and remember the details, but it was such an adventure. I have to share it. What I'm going to do is put the link up for the actual festival that I went to on this video. I put the link of the actual video. It's a 3-year-old video actually, but I think you'd enjoy the story about the Wesak itself, which is interesting. So this is how I was very apprehensive because I got a little tiny white sports car at the time, and I was going to have to go down the M25. Any English person will know that's a horrendous motorway. 20 years ago perhaps wasn't as bad as it is now, but I had to drive from Newark in Nottinghamshire, the Midlands, right down to Staines to the airport, the Heathrow airport, on my own in my little car. And I was very inexperienced at driving distances, so it was quite a challenge to get to that far. And I already booked the flight. Well, I hadn't booked it, it was a group thing. The person that was organising the whole event had booked the flight for us, so I knew the flight was okay, but I had to order stuff in between. You know what it's like. Anyway, I set off full of sort of trepidation on the M25 in my little car. I don't know how far it was to Staines, but it was quite a distance. And then I had to find, oh yes, I didn't tell you, I'd met somebody at one of the psychic fairs who was a tarot reader, and he lived quite near the airport, well in Staines actually, which is quite a town city, quite near the airport, and he said I could leave my car there and then get a taxi to the airport, which would save expense while leaving the car for 2 weeks probably. And he was quite prepared to look after it for me, so I thought, well, that was quite sweet. But he didn't offer to give me tea or anything, so I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen there. I set off on the M25 and I found Staines, which is quite a challenge, you know, on your own, trying to find these places. And I did find it, and I parked the car, found his home. We just had a chat and a cup of tea. He didn't actually offer any tea, or he said did he take me? I think he took me to the bed and breakfast place that he'd booked for me. Oh, I don't know, anyhow, how I found it, I don't know. But it was just a bed and breakfast. There was nowhere in the town for a meal. I hadn't eaten all day. I had nothing for tea. He wasn't going to give me tea or put me up. So I thought he could have put me up for the night, actually, although we didn't know each other terribly well. So I suppose it was a bit of an imposition. And of course he was looking after my car for me anyway, which was, you know, really, really very kind. So I set off this bed and breakfast place. I didn't know what to do with myself because there was nowhere for tea, no restaurants, nothing. I don't know what I did. I think I had a coffee somewhere. Then I went to the bed and breakfast place and settled in for the night. And I said I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for the flight. And she said, oh, we don't do breakfast, we'll leave you some sandwiches. Well, you can imagine I didn't sleep terribly well, and I had these sandwiches at 5 o'clock in the morning and left, closing the door behind me, when suddenly I realised I'd left my case behind. The suitcase, my travelling, all my stuff. I just shut the door to this. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. They were so cross with me. I had to break them up to open the door to get my suitcase. And I think I'd booked a taxi. I don't know how I'd done that, but I got the taxi. And it was quite a way from staying to the airport. By which time, already exhausted by this time, I had nothing to eat and I was exhausted. So anyway, we got to the airport, and I don't know if any of you have been to Heathrow Airport. I mean, all airports are a nightmare. You know, the queuing up, the booking in, the this, the that, the sitting in the lounge if you've got the right place and the right flight, and you're looking, I was very naive. I'm a bit better now, but in those days I hadn't travelled on my own before, so that was quite a challenge. And I got to the airport and booked in where you had to book in, and he said, well, we haven't got anybody with that name. So I couldn't understand it. And of course my real name was Barbara Summers, and the chap that knew me, the group organiser, he'd booked it in the name of Barbara, not Beth. And I was asking for Beth. Anyway, we got there in the end. Meanwhile, the flight was waiting almost. You know, I was cutting it a bit fine, you know. And so I did manage to get on the flight in time. Oh, golly. And I was feeling a bit sick. I had nothing to eat, and so I managed to get a drink or something. Sat next to this very strange chap. You know what airport? Flying on your own, you always sit next to somebody weird. Well, I always do. Anyway, I managed to chat. I think I was just so nervous. I chatted to him all through the flight. Probably bored the life out of him. And then when we get to this place, where did we get? No, it wasn't Mount Shasta to start with. It was somewhere else. We had to get a little tiny plane to Mount Shasta, which is where the festival was. Excuse me, I'm getting fidgety. So we got to the airport. I forget the place in California. And all the cases arrived, and mine was smashed to pieces. Well, it was very broken. And then there was all that to sort out. And then apparently, no, I'm trying to think back. It's 20 years ago. Then that's right. We got this little plane, and that was the most interesting. It was a very tiny plane. It kept dropping, turbulence, you know, and you flew over all these fantastic fields, coloured fields, California, the fruit bowl, you know, all the fruits and vegetables. I mean, the colours were amazing, and it was really hot. So I was getting quite excited, although I never stopped talking because I was very nervous at this silly little plane that seemed to be very close to the earth to me and wasn't going to make it in time. Anyway, I think it was only about half an hour or so. Then we got to the second landing place where we had to pick up all these cars, huge white American cars that we'd hired. I didn't know we'd hired it, so I hadn't got my name down, so I hadn't got a car. Somebody offered to help me, but she wanted me to pay a fantastic amount of money towards it, understandably, and I hadn't got my credit card or anything, so I had to ask her to trust me that I would post it on or something. Then we got to the campsite. Well, it's kind of a campsite. It was log cabins almost a few miles away from the Mount Shasta, which is the sacred mountain. It's a very holy place, actually, very special place. So these log cabins we were staying with, self-catering, you know, and they'd put me in, just thinking about it, they'd put me in a log cabin with 3 women who obviously hated my guts. This is true, like birthdays and Christmases. Whenever I have holidays, I always meet up with the most peculiar people who take an instant dislike to me. I never understood it. I really haven't, if someone's got any ideas. But these 3 women, they were, one of them, there were 2 single rooms, or was there 1 single room and a double room? Well, she'd got a double room because apparently her boyfriend was coming, very convenient, so she had a double bed, this fantastic room. I was put in the twin bed room with this other woman. She obviously didn't like me. She was a nightmare from the start. I don't know what we did about food. I can't remember. I know there was what was it called? A big supermarket. Lovely supermarket place that we did our shopping in, and we got basics. I got some honey and bread and stuff like that, cat tea bags, you know. But I had a shower or something. So we'd settled into this log cabin, all three of us. I'm going to sneeze. I've got hay fever. It's 10 o'clock at night here. I've just suddenly got this impulse to do this video. I don't know why, because I'm really quite tired. Anyway, I'm going to... Oh, I may have to stop the video. I don't know. It started up. So, well, I've nearly finished actually. So I don't know what we did about food. I can't remember. It was such a nightmare. It was such a mess. It really was. Then the next day we had these sort of workshops. You know, you can imagine it, can't you? Seeing people on the stage doing things, different speakers, different, you know, authors, and it was hundreds of people there and stages, you know, to sit on. And then I don't think we had to book the talks. I think we just went along and see what was on that day. And it was very, very interesting. Lots of stuff. Met lots of very nice people and did lots of interesting things, except these people wouldn't like me. And then one day they all set off in these white cars and left me on my own in this log cabin in the hot weather in Mount Shasta. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I can't. Well, I did have to sit there all. I think somebody rescued me in the end, but we didn't. I didn't. Oh, that's right. Somebody rescued me in the end. Are you all right? No, I'm not all right. Well, come with us, she said. So we all set off to this sacred mountain called Mount Shasta. Anybody who knows about this thing, do let me know, because it was a riot actually. And of course I didn't know, obviously a sacred mountain is going to be snowy. I got there, there was snow right down to the road. I only had summer sandals and a summer skirt on, so I couldn't go climbing up this sacred mountain with these people. I said, well, you go on, I'll just sit here on a stone and wait for you. There was a huge boulder at the base that I sat on. And I had the most amazing experience, and I want to tell you about it because it was absolutely beautiful and worth every trauma that I went through on that holiday, and there were a lot of traumas, you could imagine. I sat on this stone and I suddenly felt myself flying. I mean, I'm not sure it was astral travel or what, but I went flying back to the very beginning of time. Now, I've read some of the sacred mountain. I think I can't remember. There are certain beings, extraterrestrial beings, that look after this mountain and live in it or something. I don't know. I haven't got the full story, but I know that I was taken right back. I couldn't stop crying. I just couldn't. It was just such a beautiful experience. I thought, well, it's worth coming all this way to have that experience. Taken right back to the beginning of time, and it, I suppose, lasted about 10 minutes or so. I don't know, and I can't remember, but it was really quite a mountainous experience. I'm going to look at the time now. Good Lord, that's a good guess, 12 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to finish up there now, and I'll put the link on for the actual Wesak festival. Okay, it's an old video, but you probably would enjoy the story. Okay, my dears, hope you had a good, whatever, full moon.